Hello, listeners. This is Lee Price.
This is Will Ford from Football 365.
And you're listening smartly to At the Bridge Pod, a Chelsea FC podcast, although I would describe it as the Chelsea FC podcast.
Magical from Eden Hazard. Kai Havertz in the Champions League final. Ivanovic! In the middle, it's just behind him. But it's swept in by Hakim Ziyech. Matic with the ball driver. Matic takes the net off.
It's time for another episode of At the Bridge Pod, your number one Chelsea FC podcast. Coming up on this episode,
2 Enzos, 1 club. How's that going to work out? Oh, welcome back everyone to another episode of At the Bridge Pod, and I'm joined in the virtual room filled with Lions. I have got Ollie, I have got Chris, and it is a Thursday, not a Friday, because this is what we just wanted to do Thursday. But of course, the question is still there. What are you looking forward to this weekend? Don't all go at once.
The
well is dry, isn't it?
Save
both
Chris, save me.
Both me and Ollie, then I can absolutely guarantee we're both sat there thinking, what can we say that might actually be interesting?
Yeah, basically. I'm just hoping someone comes in and saves me because I'm probably just working. So
yeah, I'm doing some coaching this weekend. I'm back to because during the summer I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, obviously with the people's seasons being finished. So back to some one-to-one coaching of a kid who I've done it with now for about 3 years, who plays for Coventry's academy.
Wow.
He is unbelievable. I mean, like, he's really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that because it's really nice to work with like really high technically gifted players.
He'll be signed by Chelsea in a matter of months. You just know it.
Yeah. Well, I think he's 13 now, so he's about the right age.
Yeah, literally, they will just go, we're going to sign him. 8-year deal, probably 10-year deal. Who knows?
Chris, here's an interesting question. Just like a little bit of a tangent, but how does it change the way you coach when you have a player like that who is clearly quite gifted?
You have to really focus on minor details because, like, you can't focus on the big stuff of like how to control the ball and how to strike the ball because he can do them already. So really, it's just about keeping them sharp and fit. So we do a 2-hour session. The first part of it will be fitness based, but involving a ball because I hate fitness without a ball. And then it's about just making like minor details, like things like movement off the ball, dummy runs, secondary movements, maybe a minor adjustment to hips, which could help when executing a certain shot. So really, it's like a heavy focus on, like I said, them minor details as opposed to anything overly technical.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Did anyone catch the Europa Conference League final last night?
I did not. I forgot it was on.
Honestly, you all slept on this. You missed a classic for worst game ever. It was.
Really?
It hit 90 minutes. It hit 90 minutes, and I went to bed. I did not give a flying shit because it was just awful. No one could cross the ball. Bonaventura looked good for Fiorentina. But other than that, it was just awful, and it made me think: if we do not win this competition, oh my word!
It wasn't a great. I heard it wasn't a great advertisement for the competition. That's for sure.
It was so bad.
What was the score?
1-0. 115th winner from the guy who's top scorer in the competition for Olympiacos. I forgot his name.
Oh, the one who destroyed Villa.
Yeah, him. I'm so sorry. I'm going to find his name because that is terrible for me that I forgot his name. El Kaabi. There you go.
Yeah,
the Moroccan player. Yeah.
So he's getting a ridiculously overpriced move this summer.
Big.
Yeah, he'll get a move to like one of the promoted clubs.
Possible.
No, I tell you, he screams West Ham.
Yeah. He's 30 as well, turns 31 this year. So
yeah,
very West Ham.
West Ham, 40 million.
Yeah,
won't score a goal.
It's all over it. Yeah, gets loaned back to them within 12 months.
I expected everyone to actually say their highlight was they're looking forward to was the Champions League final. So I chose not to do that, and say Emma
Is anyone
Hayes.
looking forward to that? Really?
Well, I'm looking forward to Emma Hayes' US Women's National Team debut against South Korea. That's Saturday night. It's 10 p.m. British time. First taster of what to expect, because this is a huge job. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. This is a huge job. She has took on a US team that have never been any lower than second in the rankings since 2003, and they sit fourth at the moment behind Spain, England, and France. Huge.
You know
job.
what? It's a huge risk from her, because
Yeah,
it's a completely different management that you need, because you don't see these players every day.
that's the thing.
Like, people don't realize, like, it's almost like managing two completely different sports, because you can't get overly tactical, I don't think, because these players play in so many different systems and styles for their clubs that it's almost like just getting them to work as a unit.
Yeah,
It is point one. Like, people don't understand. That's why I think good man managers make good international managers, because that's really all it's about. It's about getting them motivated and then finding a way to win.
I agree with that. It's why Nagelsmann struggled with Germany. His stuff was just too technical for the international game.
Exactly why Guardiola would struggle with international football. Needs too much time on the training pitch.
That's a fair point. But hey, look, before we dive into the news, time for a shout out. This time from Black MTN 74, who left us a 5-star review. That's how you get on this show. 5 stars.
Yes.
4? No, 5. You're in.
It's not favoritism at all. But if you give us a 5-star review, we will put it on the show.
So what did they say? Well, they titled entertaining and informative. So straight away, I caught my eye. They said, I am so enamored with these guys. There are some episodes I listened to more than once. That meant a lot. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
Appreciate their style and insight. So good. Time well spent, and my days are better for it. Thank you so much. Thank you, because that's
very kind.
Really
Thank
lovely.
you very much, Black MTN.
So if you're listening,
Friend of the show,
100%. We need to do something for that. We definitely do. On that note, time for Hit in the News. Let's check out the news you missed in the elevator of Chelsea news. Borussia Dortmund will approach Chelsea after the Champions League final to negotiate for Ian Maatsen, and the first proposal is said to be under the release clause. Chelsea have made an inquiry to find out the conditions for 22-year-old Danish Villarreal goalkeeper Philip Jorgensen. Chelsea have extended Omari Hutchinson's contract to 2026 by exercising the option. Cole Palmer has been named in the 23-24 Premier League fan team of the season. Sonia Bompastor has been officially unveiled as the new Chelsea women's manager. And finally, Chelsea's front of shirt is still being discussed, the sponsorship. Infinite Athlete is going to be the sponsor for the pre-season tour. Talks are ongoing about the future, everything else. Anything grabbing? Hey, if you want to go there, go for it.
It's post-season, isn't it? Like it's
pre-season content.
I'll jump straight in with the shirt sponsor thing. Did you see today that Leeds have managed to secure Red Bull?
Yeah, that's always.
I wonder why.
That's a really
scrambling around, not being able to find one when Leeds in the Championship can get Red Bull.
I know,
that's
but
mad.
By the way,
Red Bull are not just sponsoring them, are they? They own part of them.
Yeah, but it's still a really cool sponsorship.
It is, yeah. Especially in the Championship.
Is it just me that read that? And look, we're not Leeds fans because, they're the rivals other than Spurs. But realistically, I'd be a bit concerned because Red Bull don't sponsor football clubs unless they change the branding on that club.
Yeah. Red Bull Leeds.
It makes you what? Hey,
look, that doesn't sound very good, does it?
It sounds awful.
If people are thinking they wouldn't do it, remember they were going to do that badge. That badge.
Yeah. Oh,
they were going to, they actually said, this is our new badge. Remember that? They didn't just put that out for a vote. They said, this is the new badge. And it was like Sonic the Hedgehog level of kickback. Like, this is shit. What is this shit? Yeah, you got to remember. That. Right. I've got mine. My thoughts start with Ian Maatsen to Dortmund because reading that they want to have a discount on a deal for a player who, 1, they want, 2, has improved their squad, and 3, has helped them get to the Champions League final. Look, there's a £35 million release clause. if Chelsea want to cut any club a deal, that's their choice. They can do. But you can't be coming to us and asking for a discount straight away. You know, if you're...
The problem is they know they can probably get it out of us. That's
No,
why
I mean, this is the thing. If you start giving out discounts, then others are going to expect the same for other players. And that's a new standard. For me, if Dortmund want discounts, go to Dollar General, Big W or Home Bargains. At Chelsea FC, high end. We're high end players. You pay retail. If you don't like it, go somewhere else.
You know what I've never understood with release clauses? They're meant to be to prevent players leaving, unless it's for an overinflated value. That's how I've always seen a release clause. So if you value a player, if you buy a player for 40 million, you'd put him on you'd put like 120 million pound release clause. So you'd think, well, I don't want them to leave, but if they are going to leave, we'll get this extortionate amount of money.
Yeah.
Why are you putting in a 35 million pound release clause? That's so low, it's almost pointless.
Didn't he agree a contract? And that was what was part of the contract. So maybe that's what we needed him to extend. And that was the only way he'd extend.
That does make sense. Maybe
that feels very Chelsea
from the players' side.
But the problem is that I would argue if he didn't have that release clause, you'd get more than that.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Oh,
I think
maybe.
it puts like an initial sort of like ceiling on what you think you can even get for him.
Yeah.
When to be honest, you get like Brighton or Fulham or half of these clubs, like they just slap the biggest price tag possible on their players and just say, that's what they'll cost. Yeah. And then we end up paying more, you know?
Yeah. Also, few questions were sent in to me about my thoughts on the Denmark Euro squad. There's two big omissions, isn't there? Matt O'Reilly and Philip Jorgensen. I mean, goalkeeper situation for me, I get it because it's extremely likely you use all three keepers in a tournament. And if you are, then you're probably on the way out of the tournament in the group stage and you're like, let's give everyone a go. The O'Reilly one is baffling because Damsgaard's in there. And that guy has been reasonable for Brentford towards the back end of the year. But Matt O'Reilly...
he was playing.
Yeah, I still feel he lives off the Euro 2020 campaign
Definitely
so much.
Does.
But look,
Definitely does.
Matt O'Reilly literally was the best player in Scotland last season. I know it's the Scottish League, but there's a theory. I don't know if you've heard this. But there's a theory going around that the manager of Denmark, Hjulmand, doesn't pick O'Reilly because due to his name and he doesn't realise he's Danish. I genuinely thought that was nonsense. I'm starting to buy into this theory. Get the tinfoil hat.
You'd hope that isn't true.
I really hope not. I would cry, but I'm starting to wonder. And also, can't miss out this. Sonia Bompastor, official. We all know Emma Hayes is the GOAT in the women's game. She's literally, it's like Sir Alex Ferguson is to the men's. But hey, instead of 2013 David Moyes, we went and appointed 2013 Jose Mourinho. That's how I see it. I'm a happy fan. We all knew it was going to happen, but the fact that it's now official, it's like, let's go. Let's go. Let's get that Champions League. Right. Oh, 400th episode today. Well done, team. But we were going to do something. And then Clear Lake thought, nah, don't have a good day. We'll fire Poch and hire, not official, but it's pretty much confirmed, isn't it? Enzo Maresca. Yeah. But
that's true. We did have something planned, which we'll have to reschedule.
It will be in a couple of weeks. Look,
Oh.
I've dusted myself off and I realised something. Going through our end of the season survey, which is still going on as we speak, link will be in the description and it's all over the socials. Our listeners told us they'd love us to talk more tactics on the show. And today we're going to be actually doing that. You know, we're going to analyse the tactics, have a chat and a discussion about Enzo Maresca and what he might bring to Chelsea FC going forward. I'm excited. I don't know about anyone else, but look, we do it with all previous scout reports on players. It will do the same with him as a manager. Quick rundown on who he is. So he was born near Salerno in Italy. He joined Milan's academy at age 10, became good friends with De Zerbi. 3 years, he moved to Cagliari for 4 years before then joining West Brom in the Championship at the age of 18.
Where he played with Graham Potter.
Bloody hell, did he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really random.
Wow, that's a good fact, that is. He became a fan favourite though at West Brom. Don't know if Potter did. But after 18 months, he moves to Juve for 4.3 million, wins to Serie A, goes on loan spells at Bologna and Piacenza before moving to Fiorentina. His most successful spell, of course, was at Sevilla, wins 2 UEFA Cups, because that's what you win at that club, UEFA Super Cup and a Copa del Rey. He then later plays for Olympiacos. Malaga under Pellegrini. That will come in important later. Sampdoria, Palermo, and Hellas Verona. But obviously, Malaga under Pellegrini, that's where the Chilean coach inspired him to become a coach himself when he retired from football. So that's him as the player. But obviously, what happened after the full-time whistle blew between Hellas Verona and Bari for his final game that he would lace up his boots and play in? Well, before that, he had started apparently to take up and study the game of chess. That's probably what you've seen, listeners, in the media. And he believed that would help him prepare for management. And his thesis, entitled Football and Chess, where he compared his coaching and tactical philosophy to that of the board game. I mean, I'll pull a quote up. The chessboard is like a football pitch that can be divided into 3 channels, a central one and 2 external ones. In football, as in chess, an inside game can be more interesting as it's the quickest and most direct towards goal or the king. So, as always, you're here listening for the tactics. Guys, he won the Premier League 2 with City's under-23 side, and it had Lavia and Palmer in it, so that's always a good start. He's won the Championship title with Leicester. I mean, when you watched either of those sides, what did you sort of take from it, from his style of play?
It's an interesting style of play, for sure. Like the way it's quite attacking, it's quite sort of passing oriented. Like it really suits, I think, a lot of the more technical players we have in our squad. You sort of build up in a little bit like actually we were doing towards the end of last season, building up with a 3-2 shape at the back, and then moving forward with a 2-3 shape. So you sort of this WM that is coming back into fashion from like the original sort of that was like the original formation, that WM thing, but I think it's a slight variation on it now. It's really interesting, and in particular, there's a few positions that really seem to be crucial to Maresca's system. The first one being the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper seems like they need to be really good with their feet, because a lot of the time the goalkeeper is tasked with coming out.
They're a centre-back, aren't they?
Yeah, and effectively playing as a centre-back. So it's a real move away from what we at Chelsea have been doing for quite a while. We don't really do goalkeepers that pass the ball, and if we do, that we don't do it very well. The other player that I think is going to be really important is what on paper will be the right back, whether that's Reece James, Gusto, or someone else. That sort of right back inverts into midfield, and then from there it allows them to dictate and control the game. His tactics are very, very interesting in that way, in terms of the way he sees the game, and I can see what he means in terms of with the chess, because a lot of the time his idea is to bait the press, and so by playing sort of passes on the inside and then sort of bursting out wide, for our players in behind. So I don't know, like the tactics from what I've seen and what I've seen him play, and like in the games I've watched, it's looked reasonably astute, and I think you'd expect that from a student of Pep. It's just about whether he can apply it to the kind of profiles and players and egos we have in our squad at the moment.
Chris, what do you think?
I mean, my issue is that he's not doing anything revolutionary. He's just doing what everyone else is trying. He's just essentially he's just copying what Pep Guardiola does, and I don't really see my issue with him at the moment. From what I've seen, is I don't see anything that I think, that could catch teams out. My worry is tactically, I think he could get found out quite easy, and how to stop it.
Okay.
Because I don't really see anything that's overly complicated. Like Ollie just said, it's going to be invert the fullback into midfield, build up with the 3 and the 2, and then he likes to get his midfield 2 number 8s, if you like, to make runs into the box, almost the same similar runs to what Kevin De Bruyne makes, which can be quite difficult to track for teams. His wingers he likes to keep wide, and they isolate, and they get into plenty of 1v1 situations. But I'm concerned because whenever I did watch Leicester, and to be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of Leicester last season, but they did seem to just, especially in the back end of the season, just rotate possession a lot. So it'd be be 3 or 4 passes at the back. Then they play a pass into midfield. It'd get up to the forwards, and they just recycle possession. The pass would go backwards, and it would end all the way back up with the goalkeeper again. I seen a goal the other day that they scored that had 52 passes in it, and it ended in a goal. And when it ends in a goal, that looks great. But realistically, you have 52 passes, and if that person messed the cross up, then everyone would have gone, well, you've had that for 52 passes and won nothing.
Do you not think, though, that, like with what you were saying earlier, the wingers being high and wide, having sort of the 8s that attack into the box and then getting the best out of like the right back as well, does that not really suit our squad?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. It would do if you was playing vertical football. So if the build up from the back was going quickly to isolate the wingers 1v1, then yes. But if it moves slowly, as it seems to be, because it doesn't seem to like a lot of risk in terms of giving the ball away on transition. So if you're keeping the ball and you're playing relatively safe passes and building up slowly, none of our attackers like that. We've seen our attackers in that sort of system before. They don't like slow football because they're shit at it. Because aside from Cole Palmer, none of the others are very good at operating in compact areas. Like, you look at Mudryk as a prime example. If you're not playing quick counter-attack with Mudryk, you might as well not play. You know, Jackson struggles when teams are set in a shape and drop into a low block. Madueke, the same. Even Sterling. All of these players do struggle in slower possession-based football. And I think that's why you've seen them struggle so much under Potter, because he was very similar. He liked to build up relatively slowly through the thirds and try and work very specific patterns of play. And I think our players was looking better when they had a more creative freedom. Now, Maresca's another one who he likes to run very stringent patterns of attacking play about this player makes this run at this time with this player makes this movement here, which is great if your players get it. But if they don't, it just becomes slow and they end up playing safe.
I mean,
so it will depend on how quick the players can get it, and whether they understand
One thing
the
I have
movements
seen,
and the patterns.
That makes me feel a little better about that sort of side of things is I read in his, I think it was some kind of tactical breakdown of about him, and it says he likes to give his players like the freedom to take risks. In that shape. So I feel like then hopefully that will then account for some of the moments of magic that we will get to see, and hope that doesn't, like, you allow people to express their creative freedom to a degree, and then fall back into the system. But I do agree. I'm not sure if it's 100% the. I think you agree. It's got to be at speed in order for us to actually get the best out of it.
I've had time to digest it. It's always good to. I mean, it does make a lot of sense. And I know some people are scratching their heads, but there is sort of logic behind this move, and you do hear glowing things about his personality and his tactics. But look, it suits the philosophy for what we're sort of trying to, the ownership's philosophy. And for me, maybe this is better than going for the big name, because many have said, oh, he'll be a yes man. But from everyone that I spoke to who were City and Leicester fans, Enzo ain't a yes man. So that's interesting. And the question is obviously, of course, with Chelsea, will he get time? No one ever seems to, ever, when it was Roman and now obviously with Clearlake. But the tactics side of it, obviously deep build up with short passes like you touched on, Chris. And it's that, to beat the high press. The goalkeeper joins the back line, creating that overload against player pressers, which that's going to be interesting in the goalkeeper situation, which we'll touch on. And from what I've been reading into him, he uses a back four in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. And that obvious goalkeeper involvement going into the back line allows a full back to sort of move inside, maintaining the four at the back. So you've got as well the inverted part of that. And inverting full back forms a double pivot, and that's positioned to receive from defenders. And was looking at some of the highlights from the Man City development side, and I saw it there, and it also was at Leicester, and that helps free up a player up to progress sort of up the pitch. Yeah, tactically,
It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, at Parma, I mean, wow, maybe it didn't go to plan there, but look, he also built from the back there, and obviously they had less possession than Leicester, but you would have that full back move narrow opposite the ball, and the others would advance high or support the number 8 and the winger. And at Leicester, the fullback inverted before the ball moves beyond the opponent's first line. And that tactical setup of moving the fullback into the central channel is something we should be excited about, because who had a huge comeback season playing that literal role? That was Cucurella. You know, that inverted role worked absolute wonders under Poch. And the fact it was key to Leicester's success under Maresca, I'm happy, because I think this is going to continue under the new guy. And when I looked back at his this week, obviously at Leicester's build-up play and what I saw Ricardo Pereira on the right, who would typically become part of a double pivot with Ndidi in the central. And that allowed, obviously, Dewsbury Hall to break forward from the deep. I mean, I'm trying to calculate who's going to be our Dewsbury Hall making the moves. So obviously Caicedo is obviously the obvious for the Ndidi replacement there. Cucurella is the replacement for Pereira. Enzo Fernandez, everyone's talking about him. He's got to be used in this team. Is he Dewsbury Hall? He was very good in that sort of situation for Argentina. I mean, when fully fit, you could also look at Romeo Lavia as the Harry Winks player. I mean, winning the ball, receiving it from the keeper, the defenders, playing for the lines. Who would your equivalent be in that situation?
I think you invert Reece instead, and you do if everyone's fit and available, you do James and Caicedo as the base, as the double pivot.
You could alternate it.
That for me is probably like the most versatile in terms of like the skill set and what they can do. And then I think further up, I guess Enzo becomes the Dewsbury Hall kind of player. I don't know though. It's quite difficult, and we've already heard things about Maresca likes Gallagher, and so Gallagher's already thinking of, like, they're already planning on selling Gallagher and have been for how.
Gallagher's already ready to run.
Well, exactly.
Get the cardio in.
You're already kind of undermining the coach you've already just brought in, and like you say, Mikey, it's all well and good talking the tactics and stuff, but at the same time, if he's not able to get the players on side, or it takes a while to get it, things are going to turn nasty quickly. And then if you're not getting results, even in the parameters and with the lack of freedom that the ownership has given him, then they're probably going to sack him anyway.
Well,
so I mean, it's like, is he going to really get the time to implement
that's the thing,
philosophy that he wants to implement to its best degree? And if they're going to sack him after a season, if he doesn't get top 4, then no.
Bad luck if we did. I mean, Chris, the reason I'm actually disagreeing with Ollie's point, I mean, I think they'll rotate with the right back and left back, but Reece James is one of the best crossers of the ball. And if you put him in the pivot, you lose that key skill.
But he's not going to just be in the pivot, is he?
No, but you would expect him to jump. I just feel it'd be Cucurella more than... I can't see Chilwell being able to do that role.
No, I don't either. I think the writing's on the wall for him.
Yeah,
with the goalkeepers as well. I think we're going to have to get a new keeper, because I'm not sure who can play that sort of centre back.
Petrovic could be. I mean, I'll let Chris talk. Go on, Chris.
I do agree. I do think Reece James could do that job though, because I think if you
did it for Wigan, didn't he?
It's not that he can't do it. I just think we'd lose the crossing ability.
But if you look at the positions that Pereira takes up in that Leicester team, they was sort of inside right, I would say. Yes, he's in the double pivot, but he's not sat in front of the defence like a traditional defensive midfielder, if you like. Yeah, he's really playing inside right. Like, he set up a lot of chances for Leicester, and I think he got a lot of assists as well, Pereira, because he's the one who was then picking out the passes for the forward runners. So I think Reece James could still do that. I don't think Gusto could. I think you'd lose a lot of Gusto, because Gusto's best work is when he's very wide on the pitch, because he's essentially a winger who's good
You know
at
what?
defending.
I actually disagree with that. I think Gusto could do that job because he's got supreme close control. His command of the ball is exceptional. I don't see why he couldn't do it.
I haven't seen a massive passing range from Gusto though. I've
No, but
seen
maybe
like
it's not about that. Maybe if he's playing, it's more about just recycling possession.
yeah, maybe. I mean, Kukurea has proved that he can do that though, so it
It would
would
be
make
good to see it on
sense.
both sides, wouldn't it? Like one goes and one stays, and then one
Yeah.
comes back and the other one goes. It would create a lot of being able, whether people are always talking about making overloads and asymmetry and stuff in the game, and I feel like if we're doing that all the time, teams are really going to struggle to track it.
Yeah.
The thing is with the midfield situation, I have seen a lot of Leicester fans talking about Conor Gallagher would be perfect in Maresca's system because it's essentially what he's been doing for us last season. Because he also likes to play a counter press. So when you lose the ball, you press straight away and you have numbers there to press. There's no one better at that than Conor Gallagher. I don't think Enzo suits the counter press as well. And I'm actually concerned that Enzo Fernandez could be the downfall of another manager, because if he does try and play him higher up the pitch in that sort of advanced 8 role, we've seen Poch try and play him there. And when he wasn't playing well, the fans turned because he was misprofiling him or he was misusing him. I'm just concerned again that it could be another coach who is forced into shoehorning a player in who doesn't actually suit what he wants to do.
It's the fee, isn't it? I think that's why the ownership are pushing for it. And he's a good player.
Yeah,
I mean, he showed it for Argentina. I mean, he's not
The
a
only
bad
thing for
player.
that is he also said though, Maresca, I think it was back in January, the fans were starting to sort of like question why he played the way he did, and he said, like I'll walk away tomorrow if people start to question the way that I play, because it's the way I play and I don't deviate from that very much. And you do wonder how that's going to go with if the ownership are prodding him, going, listen, Enzo's got to play.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to turn around and say, no, it's my system, go away? Probably not, because of the way that we're doing this whole collaborative nonsense.
I don't know.
I don't know.
They've got to have had that discussion before hiring him. Otherwise, he
must have an idea for how he's going to use Enzo. I don't think he would have gotten the job without it.
Yeah. I mean, the big loser from me from this appointment is Petrovic. And I love Petrovic, but Hermansen was very comfortable playing with the ball at his feet. And the goalkeeper in Maresca's setup is a critical role. As like I said, they join that back line. And Petro, he can always learn. He can learn, but he wasn't great with the ball to feet. Sanchez, on the other hand, was better. Better, not great, better when you compare them. So I kind of see the market being one to watch there.
To be fair, though, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be shocked about the Kepa situation.
No,
either.
don't say it. We're not doing that. We're not having a Kepa redemption arc. We're just not doing
again.
it.
He had a good one, and then he went off again.
Well, think about it. Kepa was the keeper under Sarri, who played exactly the same way. The reason why Kepa was brought in was for his feet.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, but he wasn't good with them either, or his hands.
I mean, with Kepa, how many years are left on his 20-year deal, whatever we gave him?
Oh my god!
It's got.
You know what? Kepa is the perfect example of why you don't give players such long deals, or why you don't spend so much on a player for.
Yeah, but we paid the release clause because we were desperate because Courtois was gone.
I know, and it just shows how badly it can fuck you with one bad decision.
It makes me laugh how some rival fans will go, you spent a world record fee on Kepa. Yeah, because we paid the release clause because we were literally desperate. We had to make a goalkeeper signing and we went, Kepa. He's good.
What we should have done, we should have gone for we should have just gone for a stopgap option for the season.
I cannot cast my mind back to who was a decent keeper back then. No, I can't. Listeners could. They could try.
I think it was the same summer that Alisson went to Liverpool.
He was already job done, I think.
Yeah, he was by that stage. It's just a shame that we didn't think about succession planning sooner for that.
Yeah. The number 8 role, that's important. Very important to Enzo's teams. They obviously attack the inside channels alongside the wide players, providing that extra support to the centre forward. Looking back at some of the early Leicester games under Maresca, I'm seeing attacking these inside channels. That was effective, and it was very similar to how he set up at Parma and the Man City development squad. And hey, Parma's fullbacks, they used to narrow to build the attack, and the number eights would then push forward into the front line. So that would be the 2-3-5 shape that you might have seen in other videos and tactic analyzed breakdowns online. And then obviously at Leicester, the earlier advance of the fullback would result in a 3-2-4-1 shape, pretty much like how Ollie's described the M, and some people have drawn a U as well. So, but the thing is, both systems do rely on aggressive runs from the number eights. And when an opposing fullback sort of presses the wide attackers, these runs obviously open up. They're available, especially obviously if the centre forward's pinned the nearest defender. Right. Let's be honest. Let's talk ownership. I mean, our ownership crave possession, it seems. And in Maresca's first 7 games at Leicester, over 63% possession in all but one. Now, obviously, having possession often forces opponents into the feared by all Chelsea fans, the mid and low blocks for extended periods. But hey, this setup of Enzo's might be the kryptonite for the blocks, because the eights make the inside channel runs that break through the back line, reducing the pressure on the forward. And if opposing midfielders track these runs, then the inverted fullback, so this would be Cucurella for me in this case, they can sort of dominate that possession, allowing the wing players to attack inward, create the overload, pose that threat in goal. Due to Leicester's rotations, obviously in the attacking phase, they often had 3 players in the back line with the double pivot screening. So you've got 3-2 underneath, obviously, the ball. So most of the sort of protection against the opponent making the counterattacks is sort of that central location. And you know what? With a double pivot of what I'd assume is Caicedo and Cucurella shielding the centre backs, I'm all right. I feel that you've got the wider centre backs they'd have to delay the counterattacks, wouldn't they, from obviously the attacking players, so they could recover and come back. So Mudryk, if you're playing, you're going to have to track back a bit, but. I mean, the approach does carry risks. So let's not beat around the bush with that. It's high risk. But if that second line fails to win the ball or delay the attack long enough for forward teammates to recover, that's the risk. So we sort of know, and you've probably done some listening and watching videos yourselves, both of you, and obviously listeners have. It's what we could set up like tactically, what we could play like. This is where I'm going to lead this. What players do you think we need this summer to fit the style? Because for me, I'll prompt you with this. I think keeper, striker, centre-back. Purely because, obviously, with the keeper in his feet, a striker, we've cried out that for years. And Thiago Silva's gone, so we do need a centre-back. There you go.
I would go with... I think you're right. I think a goalkeeper for certain, because with the way that Maresca wants to play, we don't have any goalkeepers who are worthy of playing that way. Like Sanchez is not worth playing a whole season for him to be marginally better than Petrovic, and Petrovic simply isn't good enough at it. And don't get me started on Kepa, we're not going there. So, we need a goalkeeper. I think we do need a centre back. One that can play on either side specifically, because you want them to be able to cover when players like Cucurella maybe run out or aren't playing for whatever reason. Similarly, you might want them on the right-hand side, because other than that, the only right-hand-sided solely centre-back we have is Wesley Fofana, and we don't know what he's going to be like after his injury. So it feels like you've got to have someone who can play on both sides, because Trevor's probably going to get sold. After that, I think you do need a striker. I think you need a tall, relatively mobile striker who can score headers, something a bit different. Doesn't matter what age they are. I would then also actually add a winger as well. Maybe someone like a Michael Elise or a Somerville, or someone who can really bring that moment of magic that we're missing a little bit from our wingers right now. So that would be what I would go with. And I think all in all, with that more or less would complete the squad.
I mean, I looked at this and I looked at a perfect lineup for myself for the team. And I actually did find myself with Fofana, Colwill and Cucurella at centre-back. So that sort of says the transfer thing. I mean, this is with everyone we've currently got if we didn't sign anyone. I'm trying to also look at who we'd sell. I mean, I kind of see no place for Gallagher. Not because I don't want him. I think he could fit the Winks role. I really do. But our ownership seems to want to make profit. So,
that's
whatever.
the thing. I feel
that's
like
the thing.
That's why he's there, even though he does suit the system well.
That's why I've
Whereas
said that.
someone like Chilwell, I think really doesn't suit the system and will be looking to be moved on.
that every time I did an 11, my biggest omission was Chilwell because I thought, well, you might be going, where is he, Mike? I mean, maybe in a taxi on his way to join Mason in Manchester. They need someone to replace Luke Shaw.
Could pull a Pochettino and just play him
I-
at left wing, couldn't he?
I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in Man United. But hey, look, 3 signings before Chris jumps on. I'd choose Sesko as a striker in a perfect world. But I think we've also
Got
got
Arsenal, isn't he?
we've got to, well, we don't know. They don't want to pay the release clause. They're also shopping in the bargain bins, aren't they? Look, I think you have to be realistic with who you pick because you're going to have a premium option and a budget backup sort of because of obviously PSR and all that sort of nonsense. So, hey, a cheaper option could be Celta Vigo's Jurgen Strand-Larsen. He's been pretty good for Celta Vigo and I don't think he's going to cost that much. Goalkeeper, some people have shown Martinez. I don't want him. I'm sorry. He's top tier, but I don't think so. Magnon would be my premium, but I can't see Milan letting him go for south of 65.
And he gets injured so much as well.
That's a problem. And with our history, so yes, I would look toward the Dane Jorgensen at Villarreal. And I know he was born in Sweden, listeners, I know, but his dad's Danish. That's good enough. And that's what the club that's the nationality he's representing. So big raspberry if you're shouting at me. My defender, though, this is someone that I feel Chris might go, no fucking way. But he can be inverted as a wing back to work as a pivot. He's got top level experience. He's definitely going to be available. João Cancelo.
He's fallen out with.
I actually don't hate that.
But he's fallen out with every manager he's ever had, more or less.
Yeah, he's a ballend. That's why.
That's what I mean. I think it would be hard to get him under control.
But if he gives us a 5-star review, he's instantly a friend of the show. No question.
Yeah.
So, Chris, who would you pick? Who would you pick signing wise?
Well, I think we need a goalkeeper. I agree with that. I think we do probably need a centre back, depending on which fullback he's planning on inverting. I think if it's the left back that he's planning on inverting, then Reece James can go into that back 3 easily from right back. I think that would be absolutely fine. I think we'd then probably, I'd say we probably need a centre back who can play central of what is essentially going to be a back 3. Because you've got Colwill and Badiashile who can play left side.
I think Colwill can play in the middle, to be fair.
Yeah. My problem with Colwill is I think for me, he's still too young and inexperienced to be leading that line. And the central one is the one who's got to lead the line.
Disasi could probably do it.
Yeah.
But he's not that great a passer. No,
Disasi's probably better on the right. Chalobah would be good, but he's going to get sold, let's be honest. So yeah, a central centre back. I think if Gallagher gets sold, I think we need 2 centre midfielders. I think you've got Caicedo, and then I think you need 2 8s because we don't have them.
Well,
Enzo
we've got Chukwuemeka.
Yeah,
he might really benefit from that system.
Yeah, I think he could be really good, but again, he hasn't gone through a single season of his career yet without getting a long-term injury. Yeah. So my concern is that he'll get injured and then we haven't got anyone to replace him in that system. I'm not convinced Enzo Fernandez can do it. He's not good enough in front of goal, for one. If you're gonna be relying on those players to be making runs into the box, he's not going to get the sort of numbers that you need. Lavia's not that sort of player either. He's more of a, if anything, he'd be probably Caicedo's replacement.
I was going to say that's the only place I see Lavia is just rotating with Caicedo. And then, I don't think he fits anywhere else.
And then we don't have any others. You know, you've got Casadei, but he barely played under Maresca at Leicester, so I can't see him forging a career at a higher level under the same manager. So I think maybe one and just pray that Chukwuemeka doesn't get injured, but I'd say at least one midfielder to replace Gallagher, although I'd just keep Gallagher, it'd be cheaper. I'm not sure on a striker because I don't think you're going to get anyone better than Jackson, and I actually think Jackson is really good. And I think he will develop to be really good.
Jackson will work really well because oftentimes when there's when Maresca's system needs to switch it up, oftentimes the way they do that is to drop in the striker to dominate in midfield, like have an extra man, and he's quite good at that.
If you look at it at Leicester as well, his striker was Kelechi Iheanacho, and stylistic wise, Jackson and Iheanacho are very similar in terms of what they do with the ball and their sort of movements off the ball. So I wouldn't be rushing out for a striker. I think we need another backup one. But then at the same time, no one anywhere at the minute has been able to fit in Kunku into this team. So
yeah, he could be the 8, or maybe, I don't know.
Or he can rotate with Jackson in the striker role.
Yeah.
Or he can play off the left, but he's kind of wasted if he's out wide.
I think though, if you look at what he wants his wingers to do and be good 1v1, I think Madueke could thrive.
Yes.
I think we need a left winger because Mudryk won't do it in this system. Because, like
Correct.
I said, he's not suited to this sort of football. He's a counter-attacking player, and he's not going to be good in a team that dominates possession. So Mudryk would be someone I'd probably look to move on, to be honest. And then I think we need a left winger because Sterling's hit and miss. And if you really want to compete, I think you need someone who's going to be more productive off that left-hand side.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. There you go. There's a tactical breakdown. Let us know what you're thinking, listeners, on it. Quaresma's questions, because we've got some listener questions. And first of all, we have had another genuinely exceptional week of questions. I am not begging for 5-star reviews with that. Genuinely, it's been really good week for questions. And because of it, I want to give 2 shout outs. First to Chris Bailey, who asked us to do a deep dive on Sonia Bompastor and her tactics. Definitely going to get that round to doing that. And a huge shout out as well to Henry Burrows on the Instagram. And he sent a question in this week. So good. It's going to be Monday's episode. And that was the question. Who are your winners and losers after the appointment of Enzo Maresca? So that's a 3-for-3 format dropping Monday. Chris, you've got 3-for-3. No 3-for-6. No 3-for-10. 3-for-3.
Oh,
but yeah, you've got Enzo, Mudryk. One of them's a winner. One of them's a loser.
I've got to pick 3 winners. That's harder.
Yeah, right. Actual question. Ben has asked, do you think Cole Palmer will be allowed the freedom which he had this season?
No. If nothing else, because teams are going to double man mark and triple man mark him. So he's not going to have as much freedom probably in the system, but he's also going to have nowhere near as much freedom from his opponents either.
I mean, an interesting thing on Palmer though. Where does he play?
Right wing.
I think he's one of either the right wing or one of the right hand side dudes.
But
8.
Right wing, he's not really a 1v1 winger on the right wing. He comes inside and tries to play those sort of passes into the box or little through balls coming into those sort of inside right positions. He's not a 1v1 winger.
I think he's one of the 8s then. He's got to be. And that is kind of his best position in that sort of right half space.
Yeah.
I think
it's a concern though, isn't it?
Well, under Enzo, I did research into the question. I thought, let's see how he did under Enzo. And under Maresca, he had 19 goals and assists in 16 games. That's bloody good numbers right there. I know you're going to say that, because of the league it's in, but that's not really, you're still playing at the same level, as your age, And he played predominantly as a right mid, more right wing under Maresca. And last season, we saw sort of Cole switch from right wing to the attacking mid, so that 8 role. And it was essentially a free role, wasn't it, where he could cut inside, etc. But he was the second star of that development squad for City behind Liam Delap. And Maresca knows Palmer well. He's not stupid. He's not going to handcuff his best player because he is our best player right now. And he's a player that he knows well. And with Leicester, he played with inverted wingers. Now, Palmer, we saw, loved cutting in and taking a shot, maybe too many shots at times. But I could see Palmer kicking on next season. And he might not hit the same goals and assists output. In fact, look, we've seen Haaland, that sometimes those numbers are just a one-off. And Haaland this year, Palmer got 40 goals and assists in 45. But if we're sat here in 12 months' time and Palmer's got 30 goals and assists in the same amount of games, I don't think that's a bad season. I think that's absolutely outstanding.
I would agree with that. I as well, because like we've said a few times, we shouldn't have to expect to rely on Palmer as much.
No,
next season
no
if
way.
The system is right.
No, because you don't look at Hazard. We relied on Hazard, and he was such a special player, such an absolute special player. He's I throw him in with the names of like Ginola, where they could change a game. He was a game changer, a maverick. And yet, what would other clubs do when they were playing Chelsea? They would go double man mark him. And sometimes it would nullify us. Sometimes you'd get a moment of magic. West Ham, the Hazard goal, West Ham. But that was the point. You can't rely on moments of magic, because if you do it too much, you're not going to pull the rabbit out of the hat every time. Sometimes you're going to pull out a custard pie. And I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what I mean. You don't want to keep pulling out custard pies. And sometimes, look, United, he pulled out 2 rabbits out of the hat in the last 5. That's the thing. I think Palmer will do all right. Obviously, he's going to have a challenging second, sophomore campaign, because other clubs are going to know what he's about. They're going to know how to, equate for him, defend against him. But hey, it worked for Salah, and Haaland has done reasonable. So Harry Kane, 1 season wonder, and he's done all right. So I'm confident. It's you're obviously a little nervous, because I don't want us to rely on him, because I don't think that's a good move. But we'll see. Any closing thoughts, Chris, on it? Or
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want to rely on him, but if you look at most teams, they do rely on one player. Man City are the anomaly, really, with not relying on one player.
yeah,
You look at Liverpool. You took Salah out of their team, and they wouldn't have won the league.
I mean,
So I think
Salah, yeah.
when you have a standout player, you are going to rely on them to a degree. I think the key is that I do think he still has to be given some freedom, because I think that's where you've really seen the best of him last year, when you could see that he was sort of making it up as he went along, and that doesn't restrict him to the sort of passes that he can play, or the sort of dribbles he can attempt, and the areas he can take up. And I think that sometimes there are certain players where you just have to say, do you know what? I don't need to really drill you in patterns of play and what to do. I just need you to go and play, and give you the license to go and do it. And I think Palmer's one of them. So I hope he does still do that to a degree, because I think if even though I think Palmer will work well, because he's a quality player, he'll work well in a stringent patterns of play type system, but I
it
don't
puts a
think
ceiling on him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you'd see his absolute best.
I mean, Salah, the reason I brought up that was because his debut season, we all know, he 32 and 36, but after that, he never hit that number again. The maximum he got was 23, and that's still pretty decent. I mean, other seasons he had 22, 19, 22, 23, 19, and then recently 18. That's the thing, still scores a lot of bloody goals, but it wasn't 32, because other clubs had sort of gone, yeah, okay, we sort of know what you're about. We could sort of, we're prepared. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're prepared now. But he was still good enough to score those high figures. That's what I think. Palmer is not going to hit those numbers again. I'd be incredibly shocked. I'd be bloody happy, but I'd be shocked if he hits those numbers again this season or in the future, because that shock factor, that surprise has worn off, and other clubs now prep. They're not stupid. They're not going to turn up and think, oh, Chelsea, who's going to be, they're going to go Palmer. What's he like? How do we stop that? So, yeah, we'll see. You know what? I'm going to park the Lone Army, because Berth's not here, and, he's had enough, and he's never here, and a couple of episodes he's missed, and the Lone Army, he's lost his lead. So, well, he's still in the lead, but we'll park it. But Hazard's headliners, who the survey said people love this game, so that's good. Concept is I pick a player who's been in the news this week, or a coach. It's a player this week, though. Making the headlines. You get 5 clues. They get easier. Guess it in as little clues as possible. So let's go. So the first clue is that he made his professional debut as an 88th minute sub for Ryan Bertrand in a 4-0 away defeat to Man City in the Premier League. Some niche football knowledge if you get this.
Because
maybe a Southampton player.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Ollie. Great minds. I'm thinking, I don't know, because I don't know who would have been another Southampton left back.
Okay, second clue. He has played with Christopher Samba and Joe Cole. They've been on the same pitch.
Christ.
Not all for the same club. They haven't like all been on the pitch at the exact same time. I don't think they have. But I can't remember half of Samba's clubs, if I'm honest.
I can't
really
remember
can't.
any of Samba's
No,
clubs.
I remember Christopher Samba at Blackburn, and
Yeah. Oh, what a player.
I think he went to Villa at one point.
Oh,
And then was it QPR?
he definitely went to QPR. I remember that. Didn't go
And who was
well.
the other? Who was the other player? Joe
Joe
Cole.
Cole. Joe Cole.
He's another one who's been round everywhere.
Yeah, he's been in
We're going to
a
need
million different
Okay,
clubs.
Yeah, we're
third.
gonna need another clue.
I think you might get this. I think this is the clue that will give it away, even though 4 and 5 are the really obvious. He famously wore a pair of old torn boots during one season because he thought they were lucky.
No,
I can hear one listener screaming the answer.
Yeah, well, do you know what, one listener? You can come on and you can do it then.
It's not Jack Grealish, is it?
It's Jack Grealish. Can you tell me why he's in the news though?
Well, Jack Grealish is always in the news, mate.
Right,
He's
for the
pissed off.
record, clue 4 was he represented both Ireland and England at under 21 level, and the 5th clue was the one that you get. It was in August 21. He moved from Villa to Man City for a British record 100 million. He's in the news because during Man City's Premier League bus parade, he nearly fell off the top of the bus.
Jesus Christ!
I've seen the video. I mean, do you remember the last year? They had to stick a yellow vest on him so they could just keep an eye on him. Just going forward, all future bus parades, because City are going to win more trophies, we know it, that involve Jack should just result in him wearing a harness with the lead being held by a responsible person, probably Rodri. I can trust him, but bloody hell.
That's really annoying because I would, just as you said, Chris, I can't think of another left back who played for Southampton. Of course, what's his face played as a winger.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe I didn't remember Samba playing for Villa.
Yeah, I did.
I have no memory of that game.
Absolutely shit there he was.
I mean, that sort of show says it all. But
to be fair though, Jack Grealish, if we're talking about 1v1 wingers who can also invert,
I would not turn that down.
I think that could be fun. I would take Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I know I would.
I wouldn't turn that down, but it's
apparently
how much...
they're only asking 50 million. Apparently, it's the rumored fee that's going around.
Might be worth a punt, you know.
I mean, hey, we seem to be really into the city lifestyle. We've got Sterling and Enzo, and I'm now trying to think of other people, but we've got Cole Palmer,
Lavia, technically.
I mean, I tell you what, that's the way of the Premier League now. You know, only top 6 clubs can afford top 6 players because of the wages. And hey, I don't know how much. I've said this on a previous episode. Grealish is on silly money, isn't he?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Probably, yeah.
Hang on, let me Google his wage.
How stupid is it? Is it stupid enough for our own
300?
300. Yes, it's no.
We'll
it's
buy
not,
that.
ladies and gentlemen.
We'll pay
that.
I mean, isn't Sterling on like 350? Is that
325, I think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
325, yeah, I think it is.
We spot rack, obviously. Let's have a look. Oh, gosh. Oh, no, I've just seen Lukaku's top of the roster at 325, but he took a pay cut. I'm sure he took a pay cut.
Yeah, that won't be accurate, though.
No. I mean, how upsetting. For some reason, they've got David Fofana at 200 grand. I don't think that's accurate. I think they've got the wrong Fofana on that. Because I don't think David Fofana's worth.
Although, in fairness, even if that's Wesley Fofana, he has been absolute stealing a living.
Well, he can't help his injuries, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I think that's not correct. Gallagher's on 50 grand, apparently. Bloody hell.
That I can believe.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
Bettinelli is apparently on more money than Maatsen and Petrovic. Wow.
That's bad.
Wow.
Do you know what? That's got to be the best job in the
choice
world.
Keeper.
You get front
Scott Carson level
every game of a club in a season, more or less. You know, you barely ever have to play. All you have to do is train, be physically fit, you know, and hang out with your mates.
Rob Green.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved him. I'm trying to think from the history. I mean, we had Ross
Hilario.
Turnbull. He was in there.
Hilario. Yeah, I was going to say him.
Richard Wright, he was at City. Carlo Nash was another. I think he was at City. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Third choice keepers is
the most famous
great.
one, Lenny Pidgley.
Oh, iconic name. Iconic name. Yeah, there we go. There's a trip down memory lane. Who'll do our third choice keeper will be after Bettinelli. Who knows? From a random player from the Serie A.
It'll be
That's usually what we do.
It'll be one of our 7 goalkeepers,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, we've got a lot. We've got that guy who's 6'9", haven't we?
Bergstrom.
Bergstrom.
Yeah.
Love
Tallest
him.
player in the Premier League.
Yeah, man. I mean, what's his size feet? Is it size 10?
I don't know.
Size 10. No, it wouldn't be size 10. It'd be like size 10. That's my foot. Size 15, maybe? I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers now. I don't know.
No idea. We'll have to get him on the show and ask him.
Yeah, we'll ask him. Bloody hell. Where is he at the moment? He was on loan at a club that I cannot pronounce and I will not pronounce. Yeah, look it up, listeners. I'm not pronouncing. Oh, it's managed by Olive Melberg.
Wow.
There you go. That's who's head. That's a really
Remember
bloody
him?
hell. Didn't even know he was a manager. Yeah, remember him. Oh man. Right. Anyway, thank you for listening. We will be back on Monday with. We were going to do keep sell loan, but we're going to be doing winners and losers of Enzo's reigns. That's going to be fun. So we'll see. We'll see. Not Rain. Gosh, he's not been sacked yet. He hasn't even been hired. That'd be a very Chelsea thing. Fired before they were hired. Right. What's the compensation on that? Oh, don't want to know. Don't need to know. Right. With that, that's us signing off.
You've been listening to At the Bridge Pod, a Chelsea FC podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram by searching for At the Bridge Pod. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leaving us a review is always appreciated.